Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that feels good. Because after all, that's what we ultimately want. We want to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Amy is out today. She sends her best wishes to you. And in the meantime, she said, take care of yourself. Get outside, move that body, fuel it with some healthy, feel-good foods. Remember, health is the first wealth. Instead of visiting with Amy today, we're going to be visiting with Norma Gallegos from an organization called Hand in Hand Immigration Services. Their purpose is to assist, motivate, and empower immigrants and their families to obtain their U.S. citizenship. I realized after reading an article about her that I don't know much about the process of becoming a U.S. citizen. So I'm looking forward to learning it and being inspired. And you know, I always like to bring things that inspire me to you as well. So stick around for that conversation, which will be right after the commercial break. But before we go any further, I want to remind you that if you have questions that you would like us to answer on or off the air, you can email those directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. You don't need to suffer. You don't need to try to figure it out all on your own, because there are answers and solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. I want to remind you that you can also visit me at my website. That's fletcherellingson.com. I've got a number of free resources there to check out. You can get a free copy of my ebook, take the happiness quiz, get a bird's eye view of how your life is going, and I'll personally send you feedback on the results, or you can listen to some of my podcast episodes there. It's a great way to stay in this personal development conversation, which, as you know, I think is the most important conversation. Now, usually at this time, I answer an email that's seeking advice. Today, I want to share something that I came across recently. It was inspiring to me, and it made me think of something from my childhood. I'm going to read it to you. A man was asked to paint a boat. He brought his paint and brushes and began to paint the boat a bright red, just as the owner had asked him. While painting the boat, he noticed a small hole in the hull, and he just quietly repaired it, took care of it, didn't even give it a second thought. When he finished painting, he received his money and he left. But the next day, the owner of the boat came to the painter and presented him with a nice check much higher than the payment for the painting. Well, the painter was surprised and said, "You've already paid me for painting the boat, sir. But this is not for the painting job. It's for repairing the hole in the boat." "Oh," he said, "oh, but that was such a small service. It's certainly not worth paying me such a high amount for something so insignificant." My dear friend, you do not understand. Let me tell you what happened. When I asked you to paint the boat, I forgot to mention the hole. And when the boat dried, my kids took the boat and went on a fishing trip. They didn't know that there was even a hole in the hole. I was not at home at that time, and when I returned and noticed they had taken the boat, I was desperate. I was alarmed because I remembered that the boat had a hole. Imagine my relief and joy when I saw them returning from fishing. Then I examined the boat and found that you had actually repaired the hole. You see now what you did? You saved the life of my children. So I don't have enough money to pay you for your small or insignificant good deed. Growing up, I read a book by Og Mandino called The Greatest Miracle in the World. One of the topics he discussed was going the extra mile. In fact, I had a poster about it in my room. What does going the extra mile mean? It means doing more than is expected of you. It means paying attention to others with the intent of making a difference. It might be as simple as picking up a piece of litter. It might be returning a shopping cart for someone. It may be checking in on a neighbor or making a donation of money or time. Where can you plug a hole for someone else? Where can you be a source of kindness and contribution? Where can you help lighten someone's load? What's great about going the extra mile? It's that your act causes someone else to feel good, and as a result, you feel good too. And as you know, it's all about feeling good in business, in life, in your relationships. So I just want to leave you with that question today. Where can you go the extra mile? Hey, I invite you to stay with us. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but then we're going to be visiting with Norma from Hand in Hand Immigration Services. Stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Today we are here with Norma Gallegos from Hand in Hand Immigration Services. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. So before we get into what it is you do and the services you offer, and we want to first find out what's going well in your life. Do you have a win that you can share with us?
Oh yes, of course. I'm healthy.
Yeah.
I've been more connected with my family. I believe it's due to the COVID year, but I'm very thankful that I continue to be available to provide services and that I continue to follow my instinct and just take care of myself and keep moving forward. So yeah. I'm well and healthy. Thank you.
You bet. I love it. So let's get to the interview. As I mentioned in the first segment, I don't really know much about what it takes to become a U.S. citizen for an immigrant, and I'm looking forward to kind of getting some education around that. So first of all, tell me, what is it that Hand in Hand does, and how did it get started?
Well, it actually started, I was working for Head Start Services at the time, and about 12 years ago, USCIS immigration director and his adjudicator came to Wenatchee from Yakima, and they were actually looking for individuals of trust. Mm-hmm. Because they were being mandated to come out of their comfort zone and provide services about why people were not becoming U.S. citizens. Mm-hmm. And they really wanted to encourage individuals and understand what they were able to do. And at the time, I learned that there were currently it's at yearly basis, between 160 to 170,000 Washingtonians become available and eligible to become U.S. citizens only in Washington State. So I was like, that's a very large number.
Yeah.
So that's when I got involved. Mm-hmm. And then for about 2 years, I volunteered to go out and facilitate information to different counties, different schools, different churches, and that's how I got started.
Got it. And then your organization literally kind of hand in hand, is that kind of like we're holding your hand through this process of becoming a U.S. citizen?
Well, USCIS themselves actually recommended that I will connect with, they encouraged me to connect with the World Relief in Spokane, mm-hmm. A large organization that they have a branch that exclusively works with immigrants in the legal offices there. Mm-hmm. So they said connect with them, and they were actually very impressed with our work as volunteered. And the others that were with me at the time volunteering, so they invited me to come and volunteer with them. At a later time, they endorsed me, sent me to all the trainings. So about 5 years of volunteerism work, they were very interested and opened a pilot program in Wenatchee and assisted and facilitated empowering our program. And that's part of their mission.
Yeah.
Their mission is to encourage other sites. So that's how we got started. So
mm-hmm.
about 5 years after that, we became independent. They assisted. I became accredited. Mm-hmm. I had gained all the experience that was necessary to be independent and become under the wing of World Relief at a later time within 7 years ago. That was April of 2012. We became independent as accredited site, and myself as an accredited representative under the Department of Justice.
Got it. And share with the audience here, why is this work important to you?
Not only that I had been working with a program and working with many families, that I started understanding, connecting the dots. Becoming a U.S. citizen was really connecting people that had been living here legally. That's how you qualify. And then I realized there was a lot of need. There was a lot of disconnect, even though our families were here. I'm talking about 30 years ago when I started. I noticed that there was a lot of immigration confusion. There was a lot of immigrants that were no longer coming and going throughout the year. People were staying. People were coming business owners, a lot of families were staying within our region, that I realized that, I can make a difference. Becoming a citizen brings a lot of benefits. People will feel more welcome and much more engaged. And there was a lot of resources that were available to them. So it was important to me that our communities were more working together, understanding each other, and focusing on similarities.
Yeah.
And that people actually had rights and opportunities that came with that, because that's how I was raised. I was raised in a community where everyone was engaged in everything, but we had to work together. So this was very important to me.
I heard you say something that piqued my ears. You said, because some people have been living here for years, they've purchased homes, they've purchased cars, they're living here year round. But then you mentioned something that, but if there weren't certain benefits or rights that they had, could you kind of speak to that? What's the benefit of becoming a citizen?
I think there was lack of resources, and I think there was a lot of misunderstanding, confusion, and fear. So that's when I was a volunteer. I learned that USCIS actually had services. They were able to provide all the resources, the materials, talked about the fee, the different ways that people could qualify to become a citizen, and that was really important to me. Because at the time, there was a large number of people that had actually gained their green card, known as a green card. It's called a permanent resident card, through the Ronald Reagan amnesty. Now, we went back to that date, 85. People didn't understand that also if you had been here legally for 20 years or longer and were over the age of 50, you could actually qualify to take the test in your primary language. People didn't know that.
Got it.
And you don't have to read or write. So there was a lot of miscommunication, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of programs were not available at the time, and people not understanding all the benefits that come with becoming a U.S. citizen, such as being able to travel, and a lot of benefits that were not available to them if they were not U.S. citizens. So I think it was my opportunity to utilize my bilingual skills and now being trusted, being a volunteer, not with USCIS officials, employee, but being a volunteer that people could really trust and say, wait a minute, I can do this. So that was when the program, I think, became very, very involved, because we not only motivate people, they trust us. We have the resources, the referrals that we need to help people from step 1 all the way to their oath, which would be their step 10.
And is the benefit of becoming a citizen, in my mind, I'm just trying to connect the dots. They've already been living here. Is the benefit of becoming a citizen that you can participate in our political system, that you don't have to worry about getting deported? What are some of the other benefits?
Well, certainly to vote.
Yeah.
And I think people have a voice. Once I've seen that, once you see them take that oath of allegiance, I have witnessed they're more engaged, they're more involved, they feel more empowered, there's some ownership to that. And not only that, you can travel freely with an American passport. And keep in mind, not everyone is eligible. So once you know that you're eligible, then you have this connection in engaging. You are a person that you have a voice and be able to be involved within your school, within your children. I think that people feel like they are more likely to advocate not only for themselves, but for their families and for their communities as well.
What a great point. I didn't really connect those dots. That when a person becomes a citizen, it's like, I'm a member of the group now, right? I've got a voice, I've got say. My say is, at least theoretically, as important as your say, and there may be a new level of self-advocacy there, right?
Correct, and it's a privilege. I tell people not everyone is eligible. You could have had a green card for 30, 40, 50 years and you might not be eligible, so you have to continue renewing your green card and continue to pay the fees and continue to be fingerprinted. So I always say it's an honor. Not everyone is eligible. If you can, do it.
That brings us to my next question. We're going to talk about what does it mean to become eligible, and then what is the process. But we'll get to that right after this commercial, okay? Stick around for more good conversation with Norma. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. I'm Fletcher Ellingson. We're sitting here with Norma from Hands in Hand Immigration Services, and we've been talking about what it looks like to become a citizen of the United States. And you were just saying that not everyone's eligible. You can even be here for 20, 30 years, but still not be eligible. So talk to me about eligibility.
I'm glad you asked that, because there's a lot of myths about immigration. And certainly, to even apply or be eligible to become a U.S. citizen, you have to prove that you have been living legally with a green card in the U.S., working, living here, and pay federal taxes. And there's a large list of documentation that is required. So again, people can't just come in the U.S. and apply for citizenship immediately. Also, people question about a green card or a path to citizenship. Well, you have to first have a green card, a permanent resident card, and then apply for the citizenship. Now, there's people that it could take a lifetime to become a U.S. citizen or even to apply for a permanent resident card.
Can I ask you a question? What is, do you get your permanent resident card, do you apply for that before you come to the country or after, or can it be both?
Yes, both.
Okay.
So receiving a green card, you first have to have someone petition for you.
Okay.
And there's a whole different petition for that. And it's a very overwhelming packet. It's not only expensive, but it's very overwhelming. But again, it all depends. Obviously, becoming a U.S. citizen, also it's another right that you can petition for family members versus petitioning as a U.S. citizen. It's a less time waiting versus if you petition for a family member with a permanent resident card. So it all depends how you do your filing.
So what I'm hearing you say is the process can be overwhelming to somebody, first of all, because there's a lot of forms and documents that need to be filled out. And then you mentioned there's a financial element to it as well.
Correct.
And those, I imagine those could both be roadblocks to people becoming a citizen. What does it take financially to jump through all these hoops?
Again, thank you for asking, because there's also this confusion about USCIS fees. Our taxes do not pay for the USCIS or for anyone to become a U.S. citizen. It's based on the fees that people pay. So paying the fee to become a citizen, you have to do the filing, which is $725, or if you hire an attorney, which could be tremendously expensive, between $1,000 to $5,000. Now, our program still continues to do very minimum cost or fees since we started. We actually have not raised our fees. We were just getting started. We were going to start raising our fees, and then COVID hit. So the last 2 years, we actually have done more pro bonos than any other time in history. So it becomes quite expensive. If you're petitioning for someone, it all depends of that person. Is it an immediate family member? So it varies. But I'm focusing on citizenship because to become a citizen, again, you have to prove that you lived here, that you worked here, physical presence, continuous presence. It comes with a good moral character piece to that. A lot of work related from the family gathering the documentation, from trips to Yakima. Could be several trips, time off work, commitment to prepare for your test. So it's very costly, and depending on the family support and on the individual, how much knowledge he must know to prepare for that day.
Got it. So it's an investment financially and certainly an investment of time and travel potentially. And I noticed also that one of the things on this pamphlet you gave me was have to be able to read and write and speak basic English. And this is the surprising one to me, like have an basic understanding of U.S. history and government, right? I mean, because if you're born here, you don't have to have that necessarily, right?
And we have a tremendous amount of tutors helping because, yes, you have to learn 100 questions about U.S. government. And then you have to do the reading, the writing, and the attachment to the Constitution. There's a lot to comes with that as you prepare for your test. And also they have to go through the criminal background check. For eligibility questions, it's a 20-page document, back to back.
Wow.
So it becomes 40 pages of everything about your life. From the moment you cross the border, whether it was 30 or 40 years ago. Now, keep in mind that a large number of our students or clients have had their permanent resident card for 20 or 30 years.
Wow.
So they still have to learn 100 questions about U.S. government in their primary language. And we've had students from 50 years old that take the test in Spanish to a 95-year-old that just took her test back in December. So we have a large variety of people that have been living here and now have that pride and joy, because they take a lot of pride on that.
I'd imagine.
Yes.
It's a big accomplishment.
Very, very big.
So as you're describing this, I really get the sense that this is a very large undertaking for an individual. Especially, I imagine there's all sorts of uncertainty that they would be feeling, like whether or not they can read, whether or not they can learn this stuff, whether or not they've got the money, whether or not they can find or locate documents or information that's needed. It could be quite overwhelming for somebody. Yes. Correct.
And something else I'd like to mention. Even gathering the documentation, the translation. I only speak Spanish. Spanish is my primary language. Actually, I was born in Mexico, raised in Kansas, so I have the luxury to say that I can communicate in 2 languages. But I've also learned working with 4 different counties, and we actually collaborate with 16 churches in 8 different schools, that there's many other languages. We've had many other languages, so that means we have many other families within our region that are eligible. So we have to find the resources, the interpreters, translators to do that, and it's work. And again, it could be overwhelming, time-consuming, and going back to years of information that we need. It's a longer process than most people think.
Got it. And so this is why your operation is so critical. It's because without people like holding their hands through this process, I mean, people could throw in the towel, get frustrated, forget it. And so they can come to you and get some step-by-step hand-holding through this process. Is that accurate?
Yes, and it's difficult to say right now because in this COVID years, we actually realized this sharp corner that we turned working with individuals that had no access to internet, had no knowledge how to even use Facebook or any other source to communicate. So going virtual was an extremely challenging time for us.
Oh, I can imagine.
And we managed to open responsibly, do whatever we had to do. I mean, I think last year we only did, we had 2,000 calls come through, over thousands, I think it was over 20,000 views on our Facebook. So we even had to change the rhythm of how we provide services to individuals that had to learn. And then the USCIS office is being closed. So if it was taking us 3 to 6 months to process an application and get people through the citizenship program, now it's been taking 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So then that means people in frustration, some individuals losing their benefits, us ending up renewing their green card versus waiting for the naturalization because benefits were canceled. It just became a very, very difficult time, and we've managed to continue to do the work that we need to do so families continue to stay focused and not lose hope for that interview date for their test as well.
Wow, yeah. I mean, you're clearly bridging a gap, and the support that you're providing is clearly really, really important. We're just about out of time. Time goes so fast when we dive into a topic here. But if somebody's listening and they know somebody that should get in contact with you, or they're hearing it and like, I need to get in contact with her, how do they do that?
Well, I encourage you to stop by. We are located at 18 North Mission, right next to the Wenatchee World. We are open 2 days a week, or go on our website, www.handinhandis.org. We have a wonderful board of directors, a few volunteers, and we rely on donors and people like you to maintain our doors open, as we also added a social services branch. We were forced to do that to continue providing services and referring people as needed during these difficult times. So give us a call, 509-888-4833, and learn about what we do. Learn about the privilege and honor of being a U.S. citizen. If you were lucky enough to be born here, let's revisit those vows and the very important promise that we have to this community. It's really important for people to just work together, learn about each other. That is our goal. We have many other cultures, many people that have lived here for years and years, and our goal is to engage, encourage, and motivate, and work together as one.
I love it. Thank you so much for what you and your team do. I mean, I really get get the sense of how valuable this is, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a
Yeah.
privilege, and we have a great community.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity,
bet.
Fletcher.
All right, well, you guys know what it's time to do now. It's time to get out there, be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You do have something to offer this world, and I believe in you.